Greetings, Slackers. It is November 13th, 2016. I'm over here on the Chicago Tribune with an article I wanted to share with you. Study finds young men are playing video games instead of getting jobs by Anna Swanson. Goes on to state here. Danny Izquierdo, a 22-year-old who lives with his parents in Silver Spring, Maryland, has found little satisfaction in a series of part-time low-wage jobs he's held since graduating from high school. But the video games he plays, including FIFA 16 and Rocket League on PlayStation and Pokemon Go on his smartphone, are a different story. Quote, when I play a game, I know if I have a few hours, I will be rewarded, he said. With a job, it's always been up in the air with the amount of work I put in and the reward. Izquierdo represents a group of video game loving Americans who, according to new research, may help explain one of the most alarming aspects of the nation's economic recovery. Even as the unemployment rate has fallen to low levels, an unusually large percentage of able bodied men, particularly the young and less educated, are either not working or not working full time. Most of the blame for the struggle of male, less educated workers has been attributed to lingering weakness in the economy, particularly in male dominated industries such as manufacturing. Yet in new research, economists from Princeton, the University of Rochester, and the University of Chicago say that an additional reason many of these young men who don't have college degrees are rejecting work is that they have a better alternative, living at home and enjoying video games. The decision may not even be completely conscious, but surveys suggest that young men are happier for it. Quote, happiness has gone up for this group. Despite employment percentages having fallen and the percentage living with parents going up, and that's different from any other group, says the University of Chicago's Eric Hurst, an economist at the Booth School of Business who helped lead the research. While young men might temporarily enjoy a life of leisure, the implications could be troubling for them as well as the economy. The young men aren't gaining job experience that will better equip them to work in their 30s and 40s. That in turn could lead to a lifetime of decreased wages, limited opportunities, and challenges such as depression and drug use. Problems that the United States is already seeing in areas hit with heavy job losses. At the same time, if a historically vibrant portion of the population doesn't feel as much desire to work, this could harm the economy's future and the ability of government to use policy to create jobs. Quote, that's a big chunk of labor that could be used for something, and we're not using it, said Greg Kaplan, an economist at the University of Chicago who was not involved with the new research. As of last year, 22% of men between the ages of 31 and 30 with less than a bachelor's degree reported not working at all in the previous year, up from only 9.5% in 2000. Overall, only 88% of men between the ages of 25 and 54 are working or looking for work, the third lowest among 34 developed countries, according to the White House's Council of Economic Advisors. Young men without college degrees have replaced 75% of the time they used to spend working with time on the computer, mostly playing video games, according to the study, which is based on the Census Bureau's time use surveys. Before the recession from 2004 to 2007, young unemployed men without college degrees were spending 3.4 hours per week playing video games. By 2011 to 2014, that time had shot up to 8.6 hours per week on average. More educated young men have ratcheted up their gaming time too, but this group has an easier time finding good jobs, and so their work hours haven't fallen as much. The trends are different for women, who were more likely to go back to school after leaving the labor force. The researchers are not merely saying that young men out of work are tuning to video games. They're saying that increasingly sophisticated video games are luring young men away from the workforce. To determine this, the researchers analyzed changes in how people were allocating their time to leisure and ran statistical tests that they say show the technological improvements are pushing people to spend much more time playing video games. That in turn is changing people's trade-offs about when to work and when to play. Quote, people have switched so much time, more time than we would have predicted, to computers and video games, and our model attributes that to technological progress, Hirsch said. The paper attributes 1/3 to 1/5 of the decline in work hours by less educated young men to the rising use of technology for entertainment, mainly video games. The new study has not yet been published in a peer-reviewed journal, and the researchers say they are continuing to refine the precise figures. But other prominent economists who reviewed it for this story said it raises important questions about why so many young men have abandoned the workforce. Alan Kruger, a former chairman of President Obama's Council of Economic Advisors, said the research presents strong evidence that the increase in the number of less educated young men who are not working is not entirely a result of weak demand for their services. He added, they find evidence that a portion of the decrease in work time of less educated young men can be a result of the appeal of video games. A few decades ago, an unemployed person might be stuck on the couch watching TV, isolated and depressed. Today, cheap and free services such as Facebook, Snapchat, YouTube, and Netflix provide seemingly endless entertainment options and an easy connection to the outside world. Video games, in particular, provide a strong community and a sense of achievement that, for some, real world jobs lack. Excuse me, folks, let me take a sip of my water. Just had a Marco Rubio moment there. Mouth is dry. Okay. Jacob Berry, a 21-year-old Grosse Pointe, Michigan, who works part-time making sandwiches at Jimmy John's and dreams of becoming a therapist, says the community as well as a sense of escape is what draws him to video games. After logging as many as 40 hours per week playing games, Berry realized that he was using games as a way to avoid the pressures of working life. Quote, honestly, I realized it was a bad thing when my mom would say things like, quote, when are you going to apply for these jobs? When are you going to go back to school? And then in the back of my mind, I kept hearing fun facts about these games. Barry dropped out of college because he was not sure the high cost of tuition would pay off, but he now feels stuck in a minimum wage food service job. He wishes he could find a career like his grandfather, who joined the phone company after high school and worked there for decades. But there's no option to do that, he says. One reason young men are drawn to games is their extremely low cost. After the initial outlay for a computer or gaming system, Barry says he logged thousands of hours on an online battle arena game, and it cost me $0. Recent research has found that households making $25,000 to $35,000 a year spend 92 more minutes a week online than households making $100,000 or more a year. Young men such as Barry are also helped out economically by living at home. In the United States, nearly 2/3 of non working, less educated young men live with parents or other family members, up from about 1/3 before the recession, for the first time since the 1930s. In fact, excuse me, folks, more U.S. men aged 18 to 34 are living with their parents than with romantic partners, according to the Pew Research Center. Quote, notwithstanding all these bad labor market outcomes, this group has found a place to live and things to do, says Kaplan of the University of Chicago. That situation does not appear to be weighing on their happiness. Data from the General Social Survey, a national survey of several thousand people, shows that young non college men actually report being happier than in the early 2000s, with the percentage of men saying they are very or pretty happy rising from 81% to 88% in the same period. The reported happiness of other groups remained constant or fell. For Esquerdo, the 22-year-old in Silver Spring, video games provide a respite from the job market pressures. The son of immigrants from Guatemala, Izquierdo dreams of becoming a graphic designer but has had trouble finding a job that offers sufficient working hours and opportunity for advancement. Quote, as a young first generation male, there's a lot of expectations. So it's kind of cool to pop on a game and you will be rewarded for doing small tasks, he says. Quote, they just make me happy. And the reason why I want to talk about this is because right now the economy is very tough for unemployed men and just younger millennial men. Now, I would also be included in the whole millennial category. However, depending on where you read it and who's talking about millennials, the ages tend to shift, and so sometimes I'm knocked out of it. But whatever, I can relate. And here's what I'll tell you. When I got out of work a few years back, I remember I was out there plugging resume after resume after resume, application after application after application. And I wasn't getting any calls back. There was this one job that did give me a chance, and that was only because I pestered the hell out of them. And I took the opportunity because, hey, it gave me some experience in the field that I was really interested in growing in. And it gave me an opportunity to make some money as well. Not much. And by not much, not enough to be able to pay my bills and continue my single lifestyle and way of living. So I had to move back home. And in moving back home, I didn't immediately get into video games. In fact, I still play video games, but I'm more of a retro gamer. I know a lot of you guys get these new gaming systems like the PS4 and the Xbox, and so it has all this online capability. And as you know, it indicated in this article, there's a real sense of community when guys can log on and team up with others to accomplish some mission. There's some short-term achievement, and because of that, there's a reward factor. And so this is what men are getting out of video games these days. And the men of this generation differ from the men of previous generations who, for instance, like my father or many fathers who were around the same age, had that whole work ethic of, you don't complain, you show up to work, you do as you're told, you follow along. And if you work at a company for 30 years, you get a nice retirement package and maybe a watch and all this stuff. Those days are gone. In fact, I'm going to cut this right here because you need to hear even President Obama acknowledge where the economy is at in relation to jobs. So hold on.
The days when you just being willing to work hard, and you can now walk into a plant and suddenly there's going to be a job for you for 30 years or 40 years, that's just not going to be there for our kids, because more and more that stuff's going to be automated. And if you go into a factory, that kid's going to need to know computers, or is going to need to know some science and some math, because they're not even going to be picking anything up. They're just going to be working on a keyboard.
Okay, now that I'm back, as you can hear, the president even said you cannot rely upon one job. You're going to have to constantly be getting re-educated for multiple jobs, okay? As someone who has, written this book and, create this YouTube channel, it gives me a chance to interact with people. It gives me a chance to maybe make some money. Sure, why not? That's a good thing. In addition to working my jobs that I work on the side. And so with working these jobs, right now, and I want you to look this up, look up some of the stuff that I'm telling you here. We have entered what's called the gig economy. This is something new that I just learned maybe a few weeks ago, but the gig economy is basically a lot of short, temporary, part-time jobs. So the idea of getting a full-time job and be able to make full-time income, that's out the window, and that was even confirmed by the president. So this trend of more men staying home and playing video games, hey, nothing wrong with it, because look at what people are doing online. I mean, they're setting up, YouTube channels, and they're, gaining followings, and they're talking about games, and they're sharing their gaming footage. It has become a pastime and a leisure. And there's nothing wrong with that, but like everything in life, always in moderation. And when you begin to go overboard with it, such as some of these men are plugging in, you know, 40 hours or more, that's where we get into trouble. And I'm going to do a separate video over on my personal YouTube channel where I just talk and vlog and stuff like that. If you want to hear about this, I'll have a link down below. Come on over to that video and check out what I'm about to say. Leave me your thoughts and comments on this. How do you feel? Are you a male that's living at home in your mother's basement playing video games? Do video games make you happy? How do you feel? Are you working versus playing video games? Leave that all down below. The link to this will be in the description box. And as always, that's going to do it for this article and this video. I'll catch you in the next one.